Welcome, Bearcats and parents. Today we're going to be focusing on converting decimals to percents and decimals to fractions. So let's jump right in. Decimals to percents. How do we convert a decimal to a percent? We move the decimal 2 places to the right, which is just like multiplying your decimal times 100, and then you write a percent sign. For instance, if my decimal is 3/10, I would move my decimal place 1, 2 spaces, and there's nothing there. If there is nothing there, you put a placeholder of a 0. So then this would become 30%. 3/10 and 30% are equivalent. How do I change a decimal to a fraction? This is what our homework is going to be focusing on tonight. To change a decimal from a to a fraction, you write the decimal over 100 if it has a hundredths place, over 10 if it only has a tenths place, and always remember to simplify. So here I made a little note of decimal place value. The first number behind the decimal is the tenths, the second is the hundredths, and the third is the thousandths. Anything in front of the decimal is our ones, tenths, and so forth. So to change a number, if we would have 6 hundredths, we write it just like we hear it, 6 over 100. I know that the GCF of 6 and 100 is 2, so I divide the numerator and denominator by 2 to get 3 over 50. There's no GCF of 3 and 50, so it is simplified in simplest form. So let's jump right into the assignment for tonight. How do we convert decimals to fractions? So first of all, let's look at the easy ones. Let's go with number 4. It is 3 and it is in the hundredths place. So I'm going to write 3 over 100. 3 is a prime number. The only numbers I can multiply in the entire world to get 3 is 1 times 3. And nothing times 3 will give me 100, so I'm done. It is in simplest form. Move on to number 6. 123 in the thousandths place. 123 thousandths. I'm going to write 123 as my numerator and 1,000 as my denominator. Again, if I add up the total of the numerator, I know that it equals 6. So this numerator may be divisible by 3, but the denominator is not. So again, I am done. This is the simplest form for this fraction. Number 3, 375 thousandths. Again, just like we read it, it's how we write it. 375 over 1,000. I know that 375 and 1,000 is divisible by 5 because I have a 5 and a 0 in the ones place. So it can be evenly divided by 5. But I don't want to divide it a lot of times, and I want to practice my factor trees. So we're going to move over and we're going to find the GCF. What is the greatest common factor for these two numbers? So I'm going to do 375 and draw my branches. 1,000 and draw my branches. 375. Again, I know that it is divisible by 5. And because it's 375, I can think about dollars and quarters and how many quarters make up dollars. And I know that I can multiply 25 times something to get 375. So I do a little side work and I figure out that it is 15. 25 is not prime. It needs to be broken down. So I can break it down to 5 times 5, which 5 and 5 are both prime. I circle them. 15 is composite. I break it down. 3 times 5, and these are also prime, so I circle them. So I'm done with 375. Moving on to 1,000. I know that 10 times 10 is 100, and 100 times 10 will give me 1,000. So I'm going to do 100 times 10. I break my 100 down to 10 times 10. I can break 10 down to 2 times 5, which is prime, 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 prime. And go over here, break it down. 2 times 5. And 2 and 5 are prime. So now I'm done. I'm going to write out my prime factorization for both numbers. For 375, it's going to be 3 times 5 times 5 times 5. Remember, you put them in order from least to greatest, from smallest to largest. For 1,000, I'm going to have 1, 2, 3 2's, 2 times 2 times 2, and then I'm going to have 3 5's, 5 times 5 times 5. Remember, we are looking for couples. What do they share? They have a couple of 5 and another couple of 5 and another couple of 5. I see 3 couples of 5. Every couple will get an invitation. And when you have more than one, you multiply these together, 2 numbers at a time. 5 times 5 is 25. Bring down my other 5. 25 times 5 will give me 125. That is my greatest common factor of 375 and 1,000. Now that I know my GCF, I go back to my homework assignment, and I'm going to divide the numerator by 125 and the denominator by 125. After you do a little bit of side work, you're going to realize that 125 will go into 375 3 times, and 125 will go into 1,000 8 times. So in simplest form, 375 thousandths is 3/8 as a fraction. I hope that this was helpful to you, and remember, good luck, Bearcats!